Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the True Path Entrepreneur, your guide to living your purpose and growing a freedom-based business that you love with fun from anywhere on the earth. I'm your host, Beth Weinstein. I'm a transformational business coach helping current and aspiring entrepreneurs align with their true purpose and grow their business so you can have a thriving business you love working on your own terms from anywhere. And today I'm really happy to be talking with Sherianna Boyle. Hey, Sherianna, how are you?
I'm great.
Sherianna is coming to us from the East Coast. I love it. I love meeting other East Coasters like myself. So Sherianna is the author of Emotional Detox and 6 other book titles. She is a professional speaker for PESI, Behavioral Health and Continuing Education. She's also an online instructor teaching emotional detox courses through Spirituality and Health magazine. She's an adjunct psychology professor, seasoned yoga instructor, and works privately supporting clients using her cleanse method. Her books and resources can be found at her website at sheriannaboyle.com, which will also be in today's email. So, Sherianna, I like to begin by asking all my guests, how did you get started on the path that you're on? You're in psychology, spirituality, detox, emotional detox, and yoga. I'm just curious, how you got there.
How I got here is I was a school psychologist for years, and then I left the schools because I got pregnant with my first daughter. I have 3 daughters, and that turned into another pregnancy. And so I was on a leave of absence, and by my 3rd daughter, she was such a good sleeper, I decided to start writing.
I love it.
And it took me about 1.5 years to write my first book. It was self-published, and I had someone supporting me along the way, and it was like training wheels, and then from there I just kept writing and eventually branched off into teaching and whole new direction. So that's kind of how it began, at least this half of it.
Yeah. Wow. I love it. I love that you just kind of started writing.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, one day I'll write a book, because it's so challenging for some of us. If I could just speak it, it'd be fine, which, is an option.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, I've read a lot of your work, and I know what you're up to, and I know you have a book on love, and, you developed this cleanse method. I'm curious, you speak of emotional detox. Now, I'm curious if you can speak to how this would apply to someone who's on a path to, let's say, making major transformations in their life, or coming into their true purpose, or growing their business, or even starting a business. How does this intertwine?
Yeah. Well, it intertwines big time. And actually, it wasn't until I was on an emotional detox myself that things really started to accelerate in my career. So I feel like I saw a big shift happening. So the basic thing is that an emotional detox, I want to be clear, is not about getting rid of your emotions, right? That's not what we're doing. What we're doing is we're cleansing the reactivity around experiencing and feeling your emotions, because your emotions are so incredibly resourceful. They give you energy, and whenever you gain energy, you gain focus, you gain clarity, and they also work along the lines of the laws of attraction. So your emotions are a big part of your business. I always say that your success very often can be tied up in your relationships. So it wasn't until emotional detox is about really my choice to heal my marriage, because I was doing great, honestly, career-wise. I was getting published. My last book was published by Simon & Schuster, and getting speaking engagements and things like that. And then I got thank God I had done all the research for emotional detox, but I got hit with some really terrible, traumatic news. So emotional detox is really about finding out that my husband was having an affair. And that's when the cleanse method came to be. And so why I say when you're on an emotional detox, you have 2 choices. Either you choose to heal, or you choose to re-traumatize yourself. And so I had to choose healing, because I was not going to allow myself to it's very traumatizing to hear details over and over again, or to run them through your brain. So I said, no, I've got to come up with a method that helps me stay on track. That's how the cleanse method actually came to be. It came to be from something so horrific. However, in the process, I have learned a lot about how your emotions get processed in the body and how they're over-processed. And one of the ways is thinking. We over-process them just like food. And we contaminate them when we do that. We think. We have an agenda, we fret, we worry, and that's what I'm calling reactivity. And by the end of writing this book, I realized that most of what we're calling an emotion is actually a reaction. And then when we react, we have to cope with that. Now we have to cope with this instability and feeling out of balance. And then it just becomes very, life can become robotic. And so your emotions can feed your passion if you pause and allow yourself to really, I call, digest them. It's like food. It's like if you scarf down your food and then you go on and do the next thing and your body never really properly digests and takes in that nourishment. It's the same thing with your emotions. And so once I cleared that up, my business started to take off because I was actually feeling what I had been ignoring for a long time. And I didn't realize I was ignoring it. I was calling it, I just have a lot to do and I'm just doing the best I can and making money and raising children and this and that. But at the same time, I recognize now there was a lot of what I call minimizing going on. And so minimizing is when you distract yourself from what you're really feeling inside and you just kind of charge ahead. So taking a moment to just say, allow some of these emotions. It's very different than talking about them, feeling. We have been so not taught in our education system how to feel our feelings in the absence of reactivity. So that is like my focus now, is teaching people how to feel their feelings.
I'm just sitting here shaking my head because I'm like, wow, this work is so important. Because you're right. Like it took me around like 37 or 38 years to start realizing that it is all about feeling them fully, about really like allowing yourself to feel it all the way through and letting it to move through your body in order to keep going. And I love that you talk about a lot that I think I know applies to the entrepreneurial journey. Because, to me, it's one of the, as much as it's fun and I love it, it's some of the biggest up and down, emotions that I've ever experienced. Like you get super high and then you get super low. And, I've learned over many years of running multiple businesses, it's all about that resilience, right? Like learning how to move through them and keep going. Mm-hmm. But you're right. There's this thing that happens, and I see this with clients. It's like one extreme or the other. People are either numbing themselves in some way, not feeling it, but by, and I've done this, working too much, or the opposite, they just start going in this downward spiral where they're so, it's like you ruminate on the same emotion over and over. And sometimes this goes on for months. Like I've seen this happen with other entrepreneurs. 6 months go by and they haven't made any progress because they're just so stuck in their emotions of like, the downward spiral. So what are some tricks? Because I know you also talk about fear. Mm-hmm. And fear, I know, is this huge emotion that comes up for, entrepreneurs at all levels. Like growing to the next level brings up so much fear. But are there any tricks to help get through all these emotions, like you said, with, really feeling them and moving through? Like they're hard.
So the main thing is to know when you're being triggered. So is it if you're feeling a tightness or tension or nervousness or your neck or your shoulders and all of that, that's a sign that you're actually being triggered. So that means there's something inside your body that is coming up to be healed. And so a lot of times what happens is, I call it following a trigger, is people follow them, meaning they think about them. And so I have 3 main questions that I recommend you ask yourself on a regular basis, okay? First one is every morning I'll ask myself, number 1, how's my breathing? And then I just noticed, so it's learning to ask the question without judgment. I'm not looking to correct it. Now, I'm also a yoga teacher. I've been teaching yoga for 16 years, and I've learned many different methods. But I'm going to be honest with you, through the cleanse method, I've learned not to actually manipulate the breath, because your breath has a story. And that your story might be, your breath might be this big, but that's your story, right? It's feeling like whatever that means, it doesn't matter. So I recommend you ask it and you observe. So how's my breathing? And even if it's like barely a breath, that's okay. Just let that be. And as soon as you start noticing your breath changes anyway, it's kind of a cool thing that happens automatic. And then the second question I ask is, how distracted am I? So how much am I thinking? And then the third question is, what are the quality of my thoughts? Are they relatively fearful in nature, or are they like positive Pollyanna kind of thing? And you actually don't want to be in those two extremes that you were referring to before, because that's a state of attachment, right? So we're actually looking for a state of neutral, which means I can feel my feelings no matter what is happening in my life. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? And I don't have to be in a state, because some people get addicted to fear because it's actually, they actually feel something, you know, it's like this weird dramatic way to feel alive. So you actually are looking for a state of neutral, which means I'm in a state of healing, right? I'm not attached. So I ask those three questions every single day, and it just gets me to say, it gets me to get to know when I'm following a trigger. Because if I follow a trigger, then I am re-traumatizing myself. So I'm on the route of reactivity. And so I can have a choice. And I notice if I'm distracted, I can say to myself, okay, body, I hear you. Something is coming up to be healed. I might have just watched something on TV that reminded me of something that is now triggering something, and my body is looking to heal an emotion that never got to be fully processed. So you just take a moment and then you go through the remaining steps. But that is the first thing that I recommend. And you, over time, you start to realize, oh my gosh, like I have a choice here. I can either follow that trigger, or I can just feel the emotion that's coming up. And it really, it's about 30 to 90 seconds to feel an emotion. It's not a lifetime, which is what most of us are taking. You know, we are spiritual beings first, and we have to remember that. We are creators and we're capable. There are no limitations here. So you can do this. It's a lot easier if you're not using your brain so much.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here with my jaw dropped, because I'm like, wow, this work is it's so important that you're talking about this. And some people, you know, most people I talk to aren't even awake and aware of this yet, you know, like the body and how much we store. And it's funny, the last thing you said, I'm like, this is when it hit me many years ago when I was running my other business, is I would notice that I would get so caught in the spiral of negativity or fear or, you know, whatever it was, something, you know, not good and unpleasant. And it would actually, I started to realize how much of it consumes my brain, and I actually wasn't able to do any other work. Like I was like, wait a second, being in fear state is just so unproductive. And that's when I was like, I think I'm going to just keep moving on. Like I would feel it and like, you know, learn how to move through it and let go. But you know, what you're talking about with the breath is, I think that's so interesting and so fascinating, because you notice it, right?
Well, and the thing is if you say, like, do you have a trick? Well, I actually don't look at reactions as emotions. So I honestly don't really buy into the million emotion thing anymore, because if you think about it, you know, it's guilt is a reaction. Right? And how do we know it's a reaction? Because we tense up. I feel guilty. I feel that right in my gut. Even just saying the word, my body's like, you know, it feels like you get kicked in the stomach, you get deflated. And that's non-movement in the body. If there's non-movement in the body, then there's no processing of the emotion. So I don't really buy into, I mean, yes, it's important to talk about our feelings. I always say cleanse first, and then you probably won't have a lot to say after that, right? And if you're in reactivity, I mean, I went to like something the other day, and my husband just asked me one question: how was it? And I went into this whole like explaining thing, and then after I walked away, I'm going, what the heck was that? That was me in a trigger. That was me. It was really about me. Something about going to that workshop, because everything's a mirror, reflected something in me that needed to be healed. And so I all of a sudden caught myself, oh my God, I'm explaining, right? And I just closed that doorway like so we want to be mindful of how we're reacting and we're not feeling. And so one of the ways we do that is we talk too much. And then this happened, and it's too much. And so just having that awareness of when I'm following a trigger, and that will, and then saying, okay, pausing and choosing to feel that emotion.
Oh my God, this work is so enlightening, because I mean, I know how important it is to keep these emotions in check when you're on this up and down roller coaster of, whether it's starting a business, or I work with a lot of clients who are just trying to step more into their true purpose and really come into their hearts. And, you're constantly being pushed and pulled in two different directions. The one that's security and job that I hate, but it's paying the bills, but I'm miserable. And then like, oh, but this is what I want to be an artist, or I want to be a healer or a coach, and going forward on that journey. And if you don't really learn how to regulate, and feel these emotions, you're just going to be like, I've seen people have like mental breakdowns because they can't deal with the extremes of all these emotions. And like you said, these reactions to what they're feeling. So this work that you're teaching is so important. And I love that you're talking about this, because I've been talking about this a lot. My partner works with he's a therapist who also works with energy and emotions. And this comes up all the time. And it's like, the more awareness, the more we can transcend and really learn how to like balance our whole life out. Now, I'm curious, like you mentioned something about, your whole business started taking off when you tapped into, this realization. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how this can apply to current entrepreneurs that are watching, that are like, how do I get off this roller coaster? Or how do I just start going, like keep going forward?
So one of my biggest aha moments was when, after finding out about my husband, we chose to stay together, and we were in therapy one day, and the therapist asked us a question. And the question was, how do you feel? And then she got distracted, and she had to get up and go, like, I don't know, do some papers or something, right? And I took a deep breath. And then she sat back down, and I thought to myself, don't talk. Like, just let this be. There's something happening here. Ended up becoming the second, I didn't say that. I went home and sat with that information. That ended up becoming the second step of the cleanse. So the second step is learning to ask yourself how you feel, and allowing your breath to answer the question, not the brain. And that's how you retrain your system. So all the time, how I feel about being an artist is, right? How I feel about that email is, yeah. How I feel about looking at my bank account is, no brain. Don't go there. It's so that I found was like a little piece of golden nugget for me. And that's where I take those moments, those scary moments where you're like, wait a minute, this isn't working. Maybe I should get another job. Maybe this is like, a pipe dream. That's an opportunity for you to cleanse. Something is coming up to be healed. Not revisited, not re-traumatized. So you just look at it. Okay, I just got triggered. I was following my thoughts. I'm not breathing. I'm distracted. And I ask myself how I feel in my body. Being in this situation makes me feel. And you take a breath and you release and you allow I call an emotion like a download, like a computer downloading a new program. And so that was a turning point. When she got up and got distracted, it was like the best moment of my life. Because I had that moment of, wait a minute, something magical is happening right here.
Oh my God. I'm just sitting here like, wow, this is so refreshing to hear someone talking about all this. It's funny because I do, I work with, I don't know what to even call her. She's technically my therapist, but I call her a spiritual guide, and she does a lot of somatic work, and it's been a few years now. And, I actually come from my other businesses in the running and fitness world. And I've always been very in my body, it's just, I have a lot of energy and I exercise all the time. And like you, a lot of yoga. But to combine all this together and really realize like how much of this is the information is all already stored here. And like you said, like the answer's already there. And it sounds like a lot of what you're teaching is a lot about bringing presence to, just everything, presence to life, presence to our body, under like listening. Because, I know a coach who charges like a lot more money than I do. And all he teaches is presence. And he's like, you have all the answers inside you. And I'm like, whoa, it's true. It's like everything really is there. It's just about learning how to access it like you're teaching. And that's why I'm like, this is so incredible to hear this. So
it's good. It's good to have a plan. And it is presence, but it's also a plan. And because we are human, and we can panic and reach for things, and all of a sudden we're off in a whole nother direction. Maybe I ought to do this, and all of a sudden we're taking some class and doing some, and we're distracted, it's nice to have a plan, and that's what the cleanse sort of became for me, and so other people is okay, this is happening, but guess what? I have a plan. I know how to handle it.
Yeah, I love it. Now, so you have a free gift that you're offering everybody watching, which they can get completely free if they download click the link in today's email, but it's called Cleansing for Emotional Freedom. Can you tell a little bit more? Is this the cleanse method or part of it? Or?
Yeah, it is. It's a supplement for the book for people that read the book. And then it's a 15-minute meditation that I guide you through the cleanse step method. And so you get to feel what it's like to really, have it in practice. And it's embedded with binaural beats. So you get that extra relaxation and brain waves and all that stuff. So it's a great tool to use every day. And I've had some really great feedback so far from people like yourself that are in the field, which always, is really nice when people are willing to let you know, wow, I felt it. It made a difference. So that's what I'm hearing so far.
Definitely. That's awesome. Now, can you tell people a little bit more about where to find you? And then, do you teach this around the country, or do you do private clients, or, how can people work with you?
Yeah, I mean, I teach private clients online or through Zoom, and if they're local, in person. And then I'm going out and retreats. I'm at Kripalu in the Berkshires in February for a whole emotional detox weekend. Spirituality and Health Magazine, we're doing emotional detox courses. So there's one for boundaries, which is way more than you think. And that's coming out in October. A whole video series on building boundaries in your life, which is an important part of your business, right?
Huge.
Having boundaries.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And we cross, it's not just about other people. It's about us, because we cross them too.
It's
and
so
that
funny.
awareness, right?
I'm sitting there going, oh, I need that, because you're right. I learned the boundaries with others many years ago, but
Yeah.
the biggest challenge is, you're right, it's
It goes
ourselves.
both ways though, you know, and both
Totally.
important to learn both sides. So,
Totally.
so that's coming out very soon.
That's awesome. This work is really, it's so important. And it's, it's funny because I'm doing this series, it's about business, but really most of the people I'm talking to, we're not discussing anything about marketing or strategy. It's really, because this work to me is more important than anything there actually is out there. Like, I can teach marketing in a second and you can implement it, but unless you're really in touch with all this deeper level work and your emotions and what's actually happening in your brain, your mind, and your body, you're never going to grow to the level you want to be. So I'm so glad you're talking about this. I think so far you're the only guest I'm interviewing that's discussing this. So this is really been so enlightening.
Oh, thank
Thank you so much for joining us, Sherianna. And everybody, be sure to stay tuned tomorrow where we'll have more interviews on the True Path Entrepreneur. See you then.